morning, everyone. Whoa, I don't want to hear myself. Maybe. Now let's try. See, this is what happens when you're live.
Right.
You just make mistakes.
You just go with it.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to Éxito Sin Fronteras, Success Without Borders. Today, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Encore Bank, even though we have a guest from another bank today. Encore Bank, for all your commercial real estate mortgage needs, reach them out at 303-429-0804. Again, 303-429-04. Encore Bank can support all your business goals and all your commercial and real estate goals. Today, we have a special guest referred to me by Lloyd. Hopefully he looks at this episode. Michael Kelly. Did you tell me to call you Mike or Michael?
Either or works.
Mike Yep. Kelly. I like Mike. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name is Mike Kelly. I'm a business banker with Vector Bank. I work with small and medium-sized businesses here in the Denver community.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
I actually just hit 10 years at Vector Bank. So hard to believe. It's weird to say a decade, but really happy to be with the bank for that long.
Why Vectra?
That's a good question. I actually started at another bank, and I always joke. When I got out of college, I interviewed with 3 different banks, and one of them was Vectra, and they were the only bank that I did not get a job opportunity with. So I went to another bank, but I stayed in touch with the people that I interviewed with, and a few years later, I just kind of pinged them for a coffee. They had a job opening, and I moved over, and in my opinion, it was the best move I did. I just learned so much from that bank, and I've also been able to see a lot of growth from the bank as well.
Okay. Why banking?
I ask myself that every day. I think very similar to a lot of people, I just kind of fell into it, and I wasn't necessarily looking into finance or anything like that. I was a finance major, but this specific type of finance, actually in college, I had to do, I think, 6 or 7 finance-specific courses.
You just said it.
But this was the one that this class, which is what I did or do, is the class that I actually hated the most. I didn't like the teacher, the work was hard, and so of course it just so happened that I fell into it. And I think I just needed kind of the right people to help me with it outside of the education system, and it's just clicked since then.
Well, I think it's like everything, right? We were just talking about, I was making a joke because you said 6, 7.
6, 7, yep.
6 to 7 courses, you said.
Oh, yes. See, my kid's too young that I don't pick up on that just yet.
You said you majored in finance and then went into banking.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? For everyone out there, I want to say, going to college and then real life experience, what can you tell someone?
Yeah, so I actually had I would say a gap year in between graduating college and then jumping into finance. I actually did a year of essentially called the AmeriCorps, something similar to that. It's called the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. But I worked at a food pantry and social service organization, and it was that kind of job experience to help me, I would say, help ground me a little bit and just truly understand what is happening out there, because I think sometimes when you turn on the news, not everybody is a billionaire, not everyone is doing these massive deals. So it really was eye-opening. I did that out in Chicago, and then afterwards couldn't find a job in Chicago, believe it or not, and came back home to Denver and just started networking.
Okay.
Now, with that said, sorry, what was your original question?
What would you advise to college students, right? With you said real life experience
yes.
and going to school.
Yeah, I would say, one thing to always keep in mind, depending on, I would say when I was at, I went to St. Louis University, I swam there. I was kind of a little bit in a bubble, which I wish I was able to get out of that bubble a little bit. That's what that experience right after college did help me do. But it's just a reminder that college is important. It's just more to help you critically think you really, the best way to learn is just kind of on the job. That's something to always keep in mind. It's, um, for the best way for me at least to learn is just by doing, not necessarily by sitting in a classroom. So there's no one right way to get it done.
I have to ask. I've been looking at your jacket. Do you hunt?
I don't. I know. I'm complete opposite. It's a really kind of funky jacket, and so I feel like it's become part of my style. And so
it looks good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's definitely a conversation starter.
That's what I go for. I also don't want to be your traditional banker. Hopefully my boss isn't listening to this, but it's very easy to kind of conform, and so I always like to switch up my style a little bit and be a little bit different, just to try to set myself apart.
Yeah, I just went to a networking this morning, and the person that invited me was like, "What? You're always so, what did he say? I don't know, like pizzazzed," because I was late, so I called myself out in front of everyone.
There we go. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I understand.
You just gotta kind of own it, and live your own style, live your own life.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about Mike, personal Mike, life.
Oh gosh.
You said you have 2 little ones.
I do have 2 little ones. Yep. So I'm actually born and raised here in Denver. So Colorado is home for me. I feel like I know there's a lot out there, but one of the few. So happy to be back in kind of supporting the community that I grew up in. I grew up on the south side, so I grew up down in Centennial, and I ended up going. I mentioned a little earlier. I went to St. Louis University. The main reason I had to get out of Colorado. You don't really realize how wonderful the mountains are and how great Colorado is until you kind of go somewhere else. So I never really appreciated the mountains, and you could say took them for granted. And so ended up leaving the state. I was gone for about 6 years, living in Chicago, St. Louis, and Kansas City, and loved my time out there. Did a little tour of the Midwest, and still have great friends in all those cities, but found my way back here and have been here ever since. So once moving back, I met my now wife, and we've been married 5 years, together for 10, and we have 2 young kids. So our life is very full. There's never a dull moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, Colorado is the best.
Colorado is the best. It truly is wonderful. And when you can get a 70-degree day in March, it makes you realize the weather's just perfect too.
You could have a 70-degree morning and then a 0-degree night.
Yes, we can. Exactly. So, which I'll take it. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Of course. Perfect. Tell us about, you said Vectra, 10 years. What's kept you there? Why Vectra? I think you kind of said it was opportunities, but you didn't really go into why Vectra.
Yeah, no. So with Vectra, I actually started there as an analyst in our commercial and corporate team. So I always joke I had the fun job of reading audits, tax returns, but I would work with larger clients in doing cash flow analysis. I'd essentially put together a large, we call it a credit presentation, could be 10 to 50 pages of analysis, risk mitigants, understanding the company, and it would just basically be a big argument as to why we as a bank should lend money to XYZ company, whatever it is, whether it was line of credit, equipment, real estate, you name it, we will do it. And so that's kind of the background of where I started with banking. But over time, I knew that was just kind of more of a means to an end, understanding kind of the trade. I wanted to get to the relationship side, wanted to meet the businesses, meet the individuals, and kind of bring them into the bank and figure that out. I did learn it's a little bit harder than it seems, but it's definitely been a journey. I've really enjoyed it since I've been there. And on my end too, I've also been very fortunate that I could go to some of the individuals and ask and let them know, hey, this is my goal, this is what I would like, and they've been really, or I've been fortunate because they've been reciprocative?
I think so.
There we go.
English is my second
of my
language.
needs, and yeah, okay.
So if
Hey,
you're having trouble,
if anybody, you might be better to ask than some others. But but they've just been wonderful, and I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of opportunity with them. So, like I said, I just hit 10 years, which I feel very fortunate to have been there that long.
To all the business owners that are actually going to listen to us or hear anything from you, what is the biggest advice that you can give them today to make a difference in their business so they can get financing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest advice is, just know who your banker is. At a point, um, sometimes banks unfortunately can get a bad rap in the news, but not all banks are like that. I'd like to say Vectra, we try to avoid that as well. The main piece is just knowing who your banker is. The big three that are important for business owners: you always want to have a good attorney, you always want to have a good accountant, and you always want to have a good banker. And so if you're able to set up that relationship with that banker, he can sit down and just even take a peek at your financials if you're willing to share that, and give you some guidance, kind of help consult you on, hey, this is what's looking good, this is what's maybe not looking so great, is there an explanation, and really just kind of dive into those financials. So that way, when you talk with them and say, hey, well, in a year I want a line of credit, or we're going to have some equipment purchases coming up, he can kind of sit with you and talk with you of, okay, well, this is what the bank wants to see, and either you're there now or you got a little bit of work to do. But it's better to do it, I always say, proactively than reactively. So that way, it's, hey, well, I need that equipment now. Well, you might not qualify. So if you could just kind of keep that open communication with them, make sure they know what that need is, then when that time comes and you are ready to go, hopefully you're in that, the financials look great, they're then able to, hopefully they already have all the stuff, and it can make the process a little bit quicker and seamless.
Okay. What's another question? Do you have anything else to add to that? Do you have any referral partners that you can refer them to, like you said, CPAs and attorneys?
Yeah, of course. I always, just part of networking, you mentioned it earlier. Always, I have a list of just some partners that if you are looking for some, I'm always happy to make a referral. Usually I like to give 2 or 3 and leave it up to you to interview, because I know, just similar with banking, no accountant is going to be the perfect fit for every business. No one accountant, at least. No commercial broker, no banker, no attorney. So always happy to introduce some individuals that way if that's something that they need.
Okay.
So, and then I guess a little bit more, one thing that I pride myself with, or Vectra really prides itself with, is at the end of the day, we are a business bank. We do have consumer stuff. We can help on the consumer side, so whether that's home equity lines, personal accounts, etc. But we pride ourselves. We focus on supporting small and medium-sized businesses. So that's our bread and butter, and we're very good at it.
Okay. And by support, what do you mean? Do you guys do events? Do you guys do trainings? What do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. We do events. What we try to do, I think we're really trying to ramp up this year, is quarterly, whether it's SBA seminars or education pieces, just bringing people in and educate. I think that's the key piece is, sometimes I'll say acronyms, and I always have to check myself, because I'm stuck in this lingo every day, but a lot of business owners are not. And so just making sure you're aware of what is out there. I know I mentioned even just a little bit earlier, I get a lot of calls. People are like, well, I want an SBA loan. Well, sure, that's great, and SBA is a great product, but it doesn't mean it's the only one. Sometimes people think, well, I think that's the only way I can get a loan is through the SBA, and just having a partner to talk with you about what those options are can help make it a little bit easier.
Well, you're on air, Mike. What other options are there?
Oh, I know, and there's so much, without having sitting down with an actual client and actually having a need with them, or understanding there's a lot, but ultimately, I guess kind of if we were to look at it at a 30,000 foot level, It's the difference between going SBA or going conventional. So conventional, it just means without the SBA, you're doing it directly through the bank and they could support you.
Okay. I'm a consumer. I have no idea what you just said. How would you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So how about, could I give an example?
Of
Would that
course.
help? Right?
Yeah, I think an example would be
And
perfect.
you're, of course, having a mortgage business, so I'll dive into real estate. So,
Okay.
on our end, what we consider owner-occupied real estate is essentially the home mortgage for a business. So banks, most banks, we absolutely love owner-occupied real estate because that's just one small way that we can support these businesses, right? Of, hey, let's put some of the money, you build equity in real estate, it's a good long-term asset. So if we were to look at a real estate loan, conventionally, most banks will go up to about 80% loan to value. So that means you gotta bring 20% down, right? You could buy $1 million building, you gotta have $200,000 cash. I understand that that can be hard for a lot of small businesses, right? Depending on the business, cash flow can be tight, it just depends, right? Everyone has different circumstances. So, understanding kind of where the client comes from really is a reason why it's important to sit down with your banker, because if you do have that cash, then yes, let's run it conventional. Believe it or not, avoiding the SBA and avoiding the government can have its advantages. It's quicker, the government loves, every form filled out, they love their T's crossed, their I's dotted. So if you can't avoid that, it just makes it a little bit of a smoother process. Now, that said, benefits of an SBA loan, you can go up to 90% loan to value. So it just requires a little bit less down, and then you have the banks feel a little more comfortable with it because they have that guarantee from the government to help support that. So that's the benefit of the SBA. In this example specifically is, hey, you just need to put a little bit less down, but it still can open up the door to getting that real estate and helping grow that business. So those, in that example specifically, I'd say, those are the two differences between those.
What if someone's trying to start their business and they need funding? Is that something you guys could do, or you guys would refer that out?
So I'll take a step back. Yes, it is something that we can do. Startups are always tricky. Most banks want to see about 2 years of financials in order to support them. That said, I know I've already mentioned it. SBA is a great, it's a great product for that. So that's the SBA 7A. Depending on what their need is, we can look into supporting them. Typically, though, we'll need, as I mentioned, we'll need a full package. We'll need a lot of detail. They're not just going to lend just because you have an idea. They want to see you put a lot of thought into it. And when I say a lot of thought, that means business plan. That means having detailed projections showing, hey, why do you think that you're going to grow at this rate over the next 2 years? So they want to make sure that there's a lot of assumptions provided. And then, of course, there's a lot of, there's just so much that goes into it. If you're going to, are you going to do this full time? Are you able to maintain your job? There's so many different factors. But in terms of startups, yes, that is an option. And then when we look at startups like that with this 7A, what we'll do is we'll actually do a term loan. So a lot of business owners want a line of credit, which is great. It makes sense. Lines of credit, you can use them whenever you need it. So you can pay it, draw it up, pay it down. But when we look at startups, typically we'll go to a term loan. So that way it's, hey, you're getting a lump sum, and then you just have an annual payment, pay it down. And then in a year or two, if you get up and running and going and prove that the projections you provided were great, that you're in line with that, if you're beating them, whatever it is, then we can always assess and look at it again. It's not a one-time thing. It's, hey, this is what we can do now. Let's see where you are in a year or two and see how we can continue to help you then.
Okay. I know a lot of small business owners out there are scared of debt.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say, based on your experience in all the businesses that you've helped, because I'm sure you've helped from small businesses, from startups, all the way to millions, hundreds of millions, what is the key to success? Is it debt?
that is tough because I will say my personal philosophy is to avoid debt as well. But just similar to on the personal side, there is good debt and there is bad debt. So good debt is, yeah, if you're wanting to build equity in a building, house your business, then absolutely, I think you should get that debt. Obviously, banks will make sure that you don't overextend yourself, but that's great debt. If you need some equipment and say, hey, I need to buy this $200,000 piece of equipment, but it will double my revenue, that's good debt. So it really just kind of depends on what that purpose is for it. Now, one thing that's kind of been a hot topic or out in the world lately is MCA debt, and that's merchant cash advance debt, and that debt is bad debt. So with that, typically it's about could be a 6 to 12 month note, and usually it's about 35 to 40% interest rate. So
Ouch.
it's, yes, ouch indeed. And I always try to advise clients to avoid it, but the piece that's attractive to it is, if you wanted an MCA loan, you can get it by the end of the week. So it's very fast, and we're kind of unfortunately in that world where convenience and speed is important.
It's worth 40%.
It's worth 40%. It is until it's not. And so banks, they can take their time. I get it. You know, I wasn't born yesterday. It can be a little bit of a process to get a loan, but the rates are much more competitive. You know, banks want to work with you and get you the right debt. And so if you have the patience and the ability to work with someone for during that loan application process, then it's absolutely worth it than just trying to rush in and get something so quick.
So best case scenario for all our business owners listening that want to get debt, need financing, is get your finances in order now before you make a purchase, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And apply now while there's time, so you have the patience to wait and get all the process done.
Exactly. Yeah. If you know something's coming up, just start talking with the banker. You know, whoever that is, whether it's Encore, Vectra, whoever. Just being as proactive as possible is your best friend.
Well, and I can say personally that I've referred my clients to Vectra and Encore, and they're both great.
They are.
I don't know about Mike here, though. Just
That's fair. That's fair. So.
Tell us a little bit about, now that we've talked about Vectra and we already gave them all the promo we can.
Yeah.
What have you found, I guess, in working in banking, and how has it bettered your life?
That's a good question. I will say personally, I do, just kind of in terms of the banking is, I do see a sense of pride, especially in our community. I'll drive around and I'll have my son in the car and I'll say, I finance that building. So it is really special to kind of drive all over and see little pieces of the community that, I had a very, very small part of, and I recognize that. But when it comes to being proud of being a banker, I'd say that's the really cool piece. And then just to go a little bit further, right? Because I'm not going to go point out a piece of equipment or a line can't do that right with a line of credit. But when I work with clients and I help them, I've been on the sales side or the relationship side for 6 years. You can see a big difference working with these clients in that span of time. And so I have clients that, I helped out right when I kind of jumped in and joined the team. And now I see where they're at now, and the revenues have increased. They have seen that jump in revenue or double because we help them get that bottling facility, or we help them get some new equipment or trucks, or a line of credit in order to kind of help support that payroll gap that happens from vendors paying them. So it's not always something that you're going to see in person, but it's something that you can just truly see year over year when I meet up with these clients. And so that's that's the other important piece, is that relationship piece. It's, I always say we're not transactional, we're a relationship. And so when I work with you, I don't want to just be one and done. It's, all right, well, I want to understand, yeah, we help you now, how are we going to help you in the future, and how are we going to get you there? So that's the prideful piece, is really kind of seeing, you don't build a city in a day, but really seeing that slow growth, that slow impact. And I recognize, like I said earlier, I'm a small part. It's up to the business owners. They do all the work. They're the ones that have that vision, but being able to kind of help get them there is really cool.
Okay. I want you to think back. It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Of one or two clients that you have helped that have personally impacted you and made a difference in your life.
Personally impacted me.
And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So I'll go to my coaching. I'm coaching a client, and I tend to let go of my clients. I'm not your typical coach that wants you to be on forever.
Cool.
I actually coach adults, and I
Mhm.
want you to be self-sufficient, right? So to me, something that impacts me, right, is when I see them put everything that I've given to them, and they put it in action, and then they go above and beyond with it, right? They scale it, they make it bigger. That to me is an impact, right? Because then it means that what I'm doing has meaning. And I feel like sometimes, because I used to be a banker, I used to work in bank a long time ago. We forget that impact, right? And then they come back and see you and say, oh, thanks to you, Mike, I was able to do X, Y, Z. Like, what was that? Have you had an experience like that?
Oh, man. I'm literally trying to go through my head right now and think of all my clients, but of course, without trying to share any names or anything like that, right? I would say absolutely. And I think I might have even already alluded it to a little bit earlier. We did help. There's a company here in Denver, and they needed a bottling line. They had this kind of rinky-dink old one. It was probably 30 years old. I forget exactly. But they needed this bottling line because they were just about to try and sign a contract with Walmart. Small company, I'm sure you guys have heard of. And so we were able to get them and support that growth with the understanding that Walmart was going to be basically one of their larger clients. And they started out, I think, in 800 stores. They're now up to like 4,000, something like that, of providing their product. And this one specific piece of equipment, really changed the trajectory of their business and how they've been able to grow and what they're able to do. So, one specific example right there, I would say that client right there.
How did that impact you?
How did that impact me? Oh, yeah, I guess I maybe avoided that question. No, I would say at a point, it impacts me just as, of understanding that growth. So I've been in the business for 12 years, and I recognize there's a lot that I don't know. And so it truly was a learning moment of, just how, that was that first one of that equipment can double revenue. So it impacted me of just being conscious of the numbers don't always show the story. It's, we got to finance this in order to change the numbers to show that story. So kind of looking at it backwards. So it impacted me in terms of just kind of my growth.
So
as a banker.
So you were able to more to, let's call it, sell the packet, sell the business instead of
sell the financials.
Right. Yeah. Most people look at finances, right? And I see this all the time with my team on whatever we talked about.
Yeah.
I'll mention that. And I see this all the time where people, they just look at the documents, they're like, oh, nope, we can't do it, without really knowing the story. Or without really asking the questions that matter, right?
Right.
So if this story impacted you in the sense of becoming a better representative for your community and for your clients, I feel like that would be the impact, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's every interaction. I always try to gain something or become somebody better for myself. So.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you then. How
Okay.
did you become better then?
How did
with this story?
How did I become better? Well, because it did come down to to telling that story. So 6 years ago, like I said, I moved into the sales side. I never had any sales training, and so that's something I've had to really learn myself and pick up. And I joked that I have to sell twice when I work with my clients, because I have to sell to them, right? I have to get them to trust me, and then I get their financials, I get everything, and then I have to sell it to the bank and say, hey, this is why we need to support them. This is why we need to lend to this specific company. So it is kind of hard. I have to sell twice, both internally and externally. But to your point, yeah, it's and I've used this with clients when I try to sell myself. It's my job is to paint a picture of America to the bank right now, and
please paint a better picture.
Well, the
because
point.
Right now America has a bad picture.
No. Okay. Depending on how you look at that, yes. No.
That was nationally. That was a joke, guys.
But I always say, hey, if you give me 5 watercolors to paint with or 50 pastels, which one do you think I'm going to paint a better picture with? So my job is to always be able to try to get as much information as I can from my clients, dive in, deep in, get to know the business. I try to say, I want to know your business as well as you do before I get this submitted, so that way, if there's any questions, that I can try to answer them for you before bugging them. So.
I have a real good question on that.
Yeah.
What would you tell, or how would you help businesses that have, how do I want to say this? Predatory lending. How would you advise a business that has been given predatory loans, kind of like the merchant cash advance you talked about, because to me that's a predatory loan.
It 100% is.
So how would you advise a client or a business customer that comes in and is getting offered all these quick solutions, yet you have a better solution for them? How would you advise them against that, and how can people that are listening, how can they identify these predatory lenders and these predatory products?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm not the first one to say it, but if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So that is something just to keep in mind. If you're able to get a loan, 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, just by providing bank statements, to me that's a red flag, right? Banks, people usually want to know more. It's not, hey, we're just going to give you a loan and because they're going to get paid back one way or another. So a lot of those kind of predatory loans, they don't really care about the business. Where at the end of the day, banks do, and some people may not believe that. I get it, but I always say, whatever the company is. I mean, we've done distilleries, we've done attorneys, we've done manufacturers. I always say, look, we're not here to run your law practice. We're not here to sell your whiskey or whatever it is. So our goal is to always make sure that we can set you up in a loan that we really believe that you will be able to pay back, because that's not our job, is to come in and take over. So we want to make sure that we set it up right on the front end. With that, it just can sometimes take time. There's the due diligence piece and making sure that it makes sense. So, if you think about it with a mortgage, if, God forbid, I lose my job, they're not gonna call my note unless I skip any payments, but I'm gonna go find a job right away to make sure that I can keep supporting and paying my mortgage and all that. With businesses, it is a little bit trickier because a business can, be here tomorrow and then tomorrow file for bankruptcy if it wanted to, and cease to exist, and then the bank has to come in. So there's just a lot more risk with that, and with that, just a little bit more due diligence, a little more analysis that banks do, just to make sure that what we're providing is good. So.
Right now, in the current situation that we are in the financial situation, business is slow. I'm assuming that you hear this all the time these last couple of years. Business is slow, it's getting slower. A lot of these businesses that have gotten funding or loans in the past are struggling to make payments. Is that correct?
I would say it depends. It depends
on the industry.
On industry, exactly. It depends on what type of loan that you took out. But there's where there are some that are struggling, there also are a lot that are doing very well. Exactly. It's I think how each business adapts to the given situation, and how they're able to kind of find that niche given the current situation, whatever it is, that that can help them thrive.
What would you advise these business owners that are in default of their loans right now, that want to keep their business afloat?
Yeah. I'm thinking.
It's loading, my son said. My brain is loading, Mommy, hold on. And my 5-year-old said, oh, I gotta go into my cemetery. So then the other day we drove by a cemetery. I'm like, is that what your brain looks like? She's like, no. I'm like, so what does it look like? She's like, it has books and stuff. I'm like, oh, so a library.
Oh, a library, yeah.
Yeah. So she goes into her library and my son's brain loads.
So I guess the advice, and depending on, who you have that, if you are defaulting on payments, anything like that, I guess the one thing I would say is just be as transparent as you can, right? Don't try to hide from the bank, because I've been there. It's hard conversations to have with the bank, but then, as the banker, it's not something that I enjoy, right? I hate having those conversations. I talked about the joy, and I love driving around town and seeing, things that I financed, but I also really just don't like having those conversations of, hey, you're in default of your loan, or you missed your annual debt service covenant ratio. There's certain things. So, being as transparent and saying, hey, this is why, this is what happened, then it makes it a heck of a lot easier for the bank or whoever to try and work with you to get to that solution. So that would be my piece of advice is don't hide, don't feel ashamed, because the other thing too, people, you're not the first person to miss out on default on a loan. It happens. That's just kind of the reality of it. Like, we get it. People go through ups and downs. Businesses do the exact same. So, take a deep breath and try and tackle it. Work with the bank, and they'll do everything they can to work with you as well.
Okay, that's really good advice. Then the next advice is you send them to me for coaching.
That sounds like a plan. Absolutely.
How do we fix your business? Mike, anything else you would like to add today?
I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Just as you are looking to grow, there's just a couple of things. You mentioned, or it's been a couple of weird years. I think we can all agree to that. That said, I feel like right now, there's also a lot of opportunity out there. So just recognize that, or I guess what I'm trying to say is, I've seen a lot of people who have been holding back because for some reason they think that we're going to get back to 2, 3, 4% interest rates, and because of that, they're not going to grow, right? They're not going to move forward with the loan. They keep holding out. So my one advice is, if you are a business owner looking to kind of take that next step, especially if it were to come to financing, what we're seeing is what we're getting. We're kind of in this world. This is actually pretty normal. If anything, the rates we're seeing are below some historical averages, except for the past couple of years. So what we're seeing is, don't let any of that hold you back from trying to grow and move forward. It is what it is. And if rates go low, then maybe you could look to refinance. And if they get higher, then you did a really good job and you got a great rate. So I would say just keep that in mind. And then the other piece too is get to know your bank. There's a lot of banks out there, especially in our community. So get to know who your banker is, and if they don't have one assigned to you, ask for one. It's so important to have someone to be an advocate for you, because they can, have just like working with a business coach, having a third party look from the outside in can provide just a lot of help, whether that's with financing, whether that's with loan accounts, payment solutions. It's always good to just have someone kind of take a peek at it and provide some suggestions. So always ask who your banker is, and if you don't have one, I'm always happy to have that conversation with you.
So you do complimentary financial checks for people?
I'm happy to take a peek. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's great to know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can send you a lot of people.
Wonderful. Yeah, happy to take a look.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today at Success Without Borders, Éxitos Sin Fronteras. Thank you again for our sponsor, Encore Bank, and I forgot about ADA Concrete. Oops. It's fine. He'll be okay. They'll be okay. ADA Concrete and Encore Bank, thank you for sponsoring our show today. And thank you, Mike Kelly with Vector Bank. And we talked about business.
We talked about business. Thank you so much for having me on.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Are we off?
Yeah.
All right. That was awesome.
Woo,
I just got. Honestly, I'm probably better off without it.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, I think I added you on LinkedIn.
Did you?
Yes.
Perfect.
Come on. What do you got from here?